facts. Right now, if you look at the news, you're not really hearing as much about Afghanistan as you
Not at
did
all.
3 months ago.
You're going too soon. I've been busy. I don't just
So what's going on behind closed doors?
I don't just sit around and wait
us.
for the media to call me.
Yeah.
So the last major media appearance I did was on the 14th of September. Andrea Mitchell had me on her show. I had just spent that morning watching Secretary Blinken get hammered by members of the House of Representatives, and the day before he had been before the Senate. And it was It was abundantly clear to anybody who watched, we weren't getting answers.
Yeah.
We were getting kabuki, right? They were using Afghanistan as a cudgel. Both sides were retreating into their narrative. Democrats were saying we did no wrong. Republicans were saying you're the worst thing ever.
Yep.
And nobody was actually getting to the bottom of what went wrong and how do we prevent it from ever happening again.
But with Blinken, the worst part about that was he seemed disinterested in the process.
He was like, it was performative. He was just there to like check a box, right? This is the time that I come and get yelled at, and then this is it, right? That's how it seemed to be. It's like, okay, I've done my 2 days in the hot seat, and that was Afghanistan.
Yeah.
20 years, $2.2 trillion. Over 2,600 Americans killed in action, over 21,000 Americans injured, not counting the 66,000 plus Afghan military members, not even the civilians who died in this war. You don't just do 2 days of hearings. So I said on TV, she asked, what do you think of this? And I spoke the truth. I said, I think what was needed was a 9/11 style commission that was properly constituted to, in a bipartisan or even nonpartisan nature, investigate the entirety of the Afghan war.
Does that exist?
It will now, because guess what? For the last 3 months, I have been very quietly working this issue. So Tammy Duckworth saw me on Andrea Mitchell and called me up and said, we agree. We're writing something called the Afghan War Commission Act of 2021. We need your help. They then had me call up some Republican members of the Senate that I know and get them to jump on board to co-sign and co-sponsor this piece of legislation. And then I did the same thing in the House of Representatives.
So much for those social circles, buddy.
It passed the House 2 weeks ago. It's in what's called the conference package of the National Defense Authorization Act. So the House has already passed their version of the law that funds the Defense Department for the next year. The Senate is supposed to be passing it at some point this week. It's considered non-controversial, right? So it is going to absolutely pass when the Senate votes on this thing. It's part of the language that everyone already agrees on, that it's simply just they're waiting for a vote. As soon as the Senate votes on it, it goes to the president's desk and it will be signed. And what this is going to do is going to transform the discussion on Afghanistan, because this commission will exist for the next 4 years. It is going to be, it's modeled after the 9/11 Commission. So it's 8 Republicans, 8 Democrats. No one can be elected and be on the commission at the same time. You can't hold federal office in any way.
No one can be elected and be on the commission at the same time.
Correct. So there's nobody who's using it to like...
Current.
Politically grandstand.
Okay.
You're not using it to just get sound bites to help with your next election.
Sure.
It is going to have, there's never been anything like this in American history. It has the purview to investigate the entirety of the Afghan war, all 20 years. All 4 administrations, all 4 White Houses, all 4 intelligence communities, all 4 defense departments, all 4 state departments.
Who's not happy about this and who's happy about this?
I would imagine that if you served in Washington in the last 20 years and worked on Afghanistan, you're probably going to get called by the commission at some point to testify. Some people are going to be thrilled at that. Some people are going to absolutely not want to.
So give me names. Like, who's not going to be happy about this?
I'm positive probably that Jake Sullivan in the White House and for example, Ron Klein, the current chief of staff, probably are not going to enjoy their time. I'm absolutely positive the Trump people are not going to enjoy their time, particularly Pompeo in front of this commission, right? Because this commission is going to get to the bottom of things. It's going to figure out what went wrong. Where did the war pivot? Why did we end up losing? Because this isn't what winning looks like. Most importantly, at least for me as a veteran, my hope is that what comes out of this is policy and procedures that prevents the chaos that we saw at the end of a war from ever happening again. We have to fundamentally change how we go to and come home from war.
So let me give you a cynical citizen's perspective on that. I mean, that's it sounds good, but at the same time, for my adult life, I've lived and I've never once seen any politician outside of maybe Ron Blagojevich ever held accountable for anything that they've ever done.
True.
I've never seen anybody in any capacity that was a civilian contractor be held accountable for anything they've done. I think I read once that out of the $2.2 trillion that we spent, over $2 trillion went to civilian contractors.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of people that became mega wealthy off of this.
Oh, yeah.
And they profited immensely off of this. And we live in a society where rich people don't go to jail. So what does this hope to accomplish? I hear this and I say, okay, there's another couple $1 billion about to be spent on government lawyers. There's another, years of hand-wringing that's going to be done. And at the end of it, nobody goes to jail. At the end of it, nobody's held accountable. It's the Panama Papers. Who went to jail for the Panama Papers? Julian Assange, the guy who was right about everything. So I mean, listen, I'm not trying to dissuade you in any way from this, nor could I. But I just from our perspective, it's like, man, what do we do as citizens? Because these people are never held accountable.
This is what we do. I know that. Look, I get it. Accountability begins with an investigation. It begins with shedding light on what went wrong. So few Americans actually know what happened in Afghanistan, right? That this is where that accountability begins. That word that you use, accountability, is so important. It's what veterans talk about all the time, right? Because at my level in the military, if I had fucked up, I go to jail, right? I go to the brig. I get court-martialed. I can be punished.
Yep.
A general messes up, they get to retire and they go get to sit on a board somewhere.
Or we bomb and we kill, kill 7 people and they're like, it's an honest mistake.
As a buddy of mine said, the Defense Department regrets to inform that your entire family has been killed due to processes and procedures not being properly followed. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I had a buddy of mine in Afghanistan held his feet to the fire because of a firefight in which he had to call in an airstrike. And that ended up killing some civilians, right? And it was a legitimate airstrike, and his feet was held to the fire because they wanted to make absolutely sure that all of the right things were considered before they dropped these bombs. These drone strikes, that's the difference now with warfare, man. If you don't have people on the ground identifying people, you're just trying to rely on some kid over in Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada to try to figure out if the dude there is. I mean, they killed the guy in Afghanistan we're talking about right now because he was packing water jugs into his car. That's why he was killed. It looked like he was packing what they thought were explosives.
It's called a war crime, isn't it?
It is. And yet we don't hold anybody accountable. This is how we hold.
So what you're working on right now, is that public info? Do people know that you're working on this, or it's private? It's
no,
not public yet.
This is going to be public. I mean, I'm telling you now, first person. There will be a big media blitz about this coming out. I'm going to be tooting my horn. Trust me, because I put my head down. I had to get this done. This is actually how shit gets done. In this country is these commissions. Like, think about it this way. My buddy Paul Reichoff, who is one of the founders of an organization called the Iraq and Afghan Veterans of America. Paul is an Iraq war vet, and he's currently teaching a class at Amherst College, his alma mater, on 9/11. And everyone in the class was born after 9/11, which to me is mind-boggling.
Yeah,
right?
That's interesting.
He said the most invaluable teaching tool he has is the 9/11 Commission report. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's actually the most easily readable government document ever made. It reads like a book. It doesn't read like a boring government document. We all lived through 9/11. I'm sure for a lot of us, myself included, it feels like I'm back there yesterday if I talk about it, right?
Yep.
But my daughter, who was born in 2012, has no clue. This is going to be an invaluable resource for her. There's going to come a time in our country's history where there are going to be Americans who look at Afghanistan the same way some of us look at like World War II and Korea and Vietnam. We don't have a contextual experience with it. It's something that our parents and grandparents did. It's something we read about, right? I'm hoping that the report that comes out of this is as invaluable to future generations as the 9/11 Commission. Because again, we've never done a post-mortem at the end of a war like this. We've never sat down. In the military, we call it an after-action review. The joke would be nobody's going home until everybody gives me 3 positives and 3 negatives, right?
Yep.
Right? That is what we're going to be doing now. We're going to be doing a proper after-action review of everything that went right and wrong in the war. And this is good business, right? Because this helps us prepare for the next war, too.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.